Hello, and welcome to another fully live episode of Hacking with Friends. My name is Kody Kinzie. I am a security researcher at Varonis, and today, per usual, we're running on hacker time as I got back and my computer wouldn't turn on. So I got that fixed. We're on our, I think our third or fourth life for this computer. But anyway, it's good to see everyone here. There's already, there's already like 20 people in the chat. I've got time for all of your questions today. I'm going to be talking about some really cool things that just happened on my end, such as a new case design for the Nugget, which is really cool. And then also talking about some of the interesting things I learned about Meshtastic while I was at San Francisco and had my first conversations over Meshtastic, as well as found out how many nodes there really are out there. So as I saw in the chat, while I was starting up, everybody is talking about Meshtastic. And it's an interesting question as to why. You know, like there's a lot of people who, there's this like weird Venn diagram of people who are interested in this, and hackers are kind of like firmly in the center. So if you haven't heard of this and you're wondering why it's in the headline today, I get the feeling that this is going to be a topic in conversation coming up in the near future, because hackers are going to use this for all sorts of interesting things. Imagine a distributed network where every node acts as a router, and you're able to create a very, very large network that's able to send packets and do all of this without a license over a very long range and without breaking any laws. You also are able to do some things that amateur radio people are not typically allowed to do, like encrypt your packets, which has given rise to a very popular application called Meshtastic. So the reason why so many people kind of are coming into that from different communities is if you're like a survivalist kind of person, if you're a communications kind of person, if you're an off-grid kind of person, this is very interesting to you. Suddenly you're like, ooh, I'm like my own cell phone repeater or something. And I saw a lot of videos online talking like, cell phone killer. It's been a good run, cell phone companies. And that's just not true. This is like maybe like a pager, you know, or like something where you can send like short text messages in terms of what kind of data you can deliver. But a lot of people are really interested in this. So I want to keep talking about it, especially because I know the cost of these things is going down and down and down. So I took a gamble and I purchased some of these bare LoRa modules, these little postage stamp size LoRa modules from AliExpress. And I wanted to start experimenting and see, all right, if I'm a hacker and I want to be able to send a Rickroll, you know, like maybe like 3 miles away, is that reasonable? And the answer was yes. In the last video that I posted, I was talking about last week, I actually did a video on showing off exactly how we tested and I got over a mile of range. And that's just because that's as far as my drone would go. I was actually able to get it to work a lot further. I just couldn't really record the distance very well for the video. So this has a lot of applications. A lot of people are talking about these LoRa radios and then all the cool stuff you can do on top of it. There's things like ATAC. There's also some like other crazy geo sharing stuff that has like a little map and then it updates things based on people around you sharing information to create like a meshed like map of available or discovered things. It's all really cool. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that and share some of the results from San Francisco. However, I'm also here to answer questions. And first, and this one's a little left of field, will AI replace hackers? So I don't think that AI will replace hackers in good common sense, depth of knowledge of particular systems and how they work together, and then like being able to think outside the box. I think that AI is not necessarily like super good at that yet. And that's something that will be still something that it's good at for, that we're good at for a while. But I guess where I'm starting to see like some creep is like in a recent story I was covering, talking about like how Google does their payouts for bug bounties. Like if you don't write it up properly, and if you don't have a really well-structured with like suggestions and something and all that stuff, way of delivering the news of what you found, then like they'll only pay you basically half. So I think that AI in some ways can help hackers kind of like supercharge themselves a little bit and maybe be able to write better documentation or do other things that might have been a bit tedious. But at the same time, they're still going to need a lot of those core skills to get things done. I think a lot of low-level tasks, though, like sitting there and determining if an alert is suspicious or not, like a lot of that is already being handled by AI. So it's like hacking is such a huge industry. We have everybody from like SOC people that are like doing incident response, and in the security operations center, we have people who are doing education like me, and then we have pen testers and blue teamers, and like there's lots of us out there. So I don't think it's going to wipe us all out, but I do think it will replace at least some aspects of people's jobs where it's more about processing large amounts of data or making decisions based on that data, and less about like experience, I guess, and like knowing knowing like what constitutes an incident based on like human factors that AI just like doesn't quite understand yet. That's a really good question though, and I think it's one that's going to come up a lot. All right, so what Meshtastic device is the best? So I have a bunch of them, and I have different. All right, I have a lot of information for you on this. So first off, this is a little Heltec. I forget the exact model. I'll pull it up, but this is a very recognizable Heltec model. I think it's like the V3. It's like the ESP32 V3. It uses an ESP32 S3. It's got, I don't remember the exact LoRa radio in here, but it's got a omnidirectional antenna that is packed away in this little injection molded case, and it's actually quite nice. I like it. It's got a little screen, and when you plug it in, it's an OLED screen. It's very like typical of this type of device, and you'll see information about incoming packets. Kind of goes off the screen a little bit, but the intention is that this has Bluetooth, so you connect to this on your phone, and then it connects to your phone to send information about like packets that it receives, but also it can get your GPS position from your phone if you want it to, and share that to other nodes to determine like relative distance and that sort of thing. So like this is a really handy device. It means that it's basically a little client on the mesh network that can, with a pretty decent range, connect to other nodes around it. And I would say as like a just a normal beginner node like this one, the Heltec V3 was my go-to after testing a bunch of them. I really like it, and I think that the case makes it so it's less likely to pull this thing apart or break it. So this is the one that I've been playing with, and I know that a lot of other nodes that I connected to at RSAC were using this. In fact, let me pull up my other screen, and I wanted to show off. I hope this actually works. Hold on. Let me make sure I'm sharing the right thing. It is this one. Sorry, there's like GPS data here. All right, yes, it is this one. So at the conference, while you run this, it actually builds a little map of all the other nodes that are sharing their location. And in this case, I was able to see that a lot of these were actually this Heltec V3 just by looking at their information. Some of these were mobile nodes that were moving around and sharing their information as they moved, but most of them were fixed nodes. And in the San Francisco area, there was so many, like there was really a lot. So I guess that's the only one I have. But yeah, so I noticed that when I was in Los Angeles, when I was in a couple other places, I didn't really see a lot of other nodes, but out in San Francisco, especially around the conference area, many different booths were actually running nodes. And I would say the majority of them were some variant of this Heltec V3. So second up to that is it in my pocket? It sure is. I don't know if you heard that. Is this e-paper module. So like e-ink, sorry, e-ink. So this e-ink module is really cool. It uses a e-ink display that is currently showing a message, even though it's off. And that's because e-ink doesn't need any power to have a message on the display. It just needs power to change that message, which is really cool. Now, what do I like and dislike about this case? I love the way it looks. It's very pretty. It's got acrylic on either side that kind of is supposed to protect the electronics. And it also comes with a big, like 5 dBi, like omnidirectional antenna. Like it's cool. I believe it's 5 dBi. Don't quote me on that. So pretty powerful omnidirectional antenna. Beautiful case. What do I not like about this? Well, did you hear that screw fall off? Now I have to worry that if I close my MacBook, I'm going to shatter the screen because a tiny little screw from this just like fell off. That's the third time that has happened. This little screw together enclosure actually sucks. Like a snap together enclosure is far superior. This gets rattly from vibrations and slowly works itself apart. And it also pulls on the omnidirectional antenna because there's no particular place for it to go. So eventually the antenna either pops off, or even worse, it might pull off the SMA connector on this board. So while I love e-ink in general, I think it's really cool. And I actually do like this design. I would say if you're going to get one of these e-paper modules, they're cheaper than the other ones I've experimented with. However, you are not going to want to put it in your backpack and walk around with it the way that I did. It invariably came loose or got destroyed. So yeah, don't really recommend this one. So the last one that I've been working with is actually upstairs, currently connected to several nodes in my area, which is really cool. It was, I believe it's called a T-beam. And the idea is that it has no screen, like at all. You connect to it over Bluetooth, and it's basically, it's got two separate antennas, and it is more designed to be like a router. So it's designed to have longer range and kind of be able to connect to a bunch more nodes and exchange packets. So that one is the beefiest one that I have. And I've been like taping that in the window of my hotel room as high as I possibly can and getting really good range and basically acting as a node for all the other devices in the area through me. So it's been pretty nice to use as something that's in a fixed position. So those are my 3 recommendations if you're looking to get into this currently. I also have my own LoRa plans in the works. And for the upcoming Layer 1 conference, we are going to be in Pasadena doing a number of soldering workshops, doing a number of hacking workshops, and one of them is going to be covering LoRa, and we just got brand new boards for it, which I'm really excited about. So let me look. I just talked a lot. Let me take a look through through the comments and make sure I'm not missing anything. Many viewers want those old style videos like the ones you did on Nullbyte. Yeah, I actually just still do those. So if you check out the radio channel, we still make content like that. It takes a lot of effort to make those. So I definitely appreciate the support if you like that. And also the Nullbyte channel itself might actually be buying a couple more episodes. So it went through a couple change of hands. A lot of people don't know that I never owned the Nullbyte channel. It was always owned by a company called Wonder How To, who went out of business during the pandemic and sold it to another company. So they reached out to us and they seem interested in producing some episodes soon. So we've got some really great ideas lined up for that. So yes, if you are hearkening for the days of, old Nullbyte, I am too. But we do make videos like that still. I just want to make way better ones with a bigger budget, So look forward to that, possibly by the beginning of next month. So yes. Let's see. Programmers will go first. Yeah, honestly, I think that of all the things that will be replaced by AI, like some of these previously like safe and like almost a little bit snobby like jobs like computer science and programming like might be some of the first to go. That sort of like tedious memorization and like rigidity and like translating back and forth between different standard, like computers are just really good at that, and we already use them to do a lot of it. So like a lot of computer science, I feel like, is learning to like ride and soothe the computer like a horse. And I don't know, I feel like an AI might just be better at that sort of thing. So of all the things that I think AI might begin to creep into, we already see AI like Copilot and things like that that are designed to help you program things from natural language. And I myself have been able to write basic, not very pretty, but basic programs like from natural language using, Circuit Python or some of these other, or even Arduino. So yeah, I think that's entirely possible. At least that some of the programming stuff becomes less important and it's more about good ideas. Meshtastic uses encryption, but you can exploit it like anything else. Yes, for example, like the default key for Meshtastic is just like a bunch of zeros or something like it's basically just a bunch of like characters that everybody has set as the default values on their board when it gets flashed. So if you don't change that, it's not, I mean, it is encrypted, but everybody has the key. So it's not very good. Of course, you can create your own encrypted chats, and that's much stronger. And if you use best practices to share that, then it should, in theory, be difficult to intercept that. But yes, there's lots of different ways you can theoretically attack Meshtastic, which I would actually love to talk about more. All right. So, all right, here's a question. When are you going to show / make WPA3 Wi-Fi hacking on microcontrollers? Yes. So I think I answered this a little bit last time, but the reason why I haven't focused on WPA3 too much is because virtually every single device out there that supports WPA3 also supports WPA2, and WPA2 is easy to attack. So as a result, if I'm lazy, if I'm a hacker and I'm taking the path of least resistance, there's almost no scenario right now where I exclusively have to hack into WPA3. I can almost always downgrade that attack into a WPA2 attack and then, just get by on kind of traditional tactics. So, like I do want to cover it more, and there are some attacks that are very novel. The problem is, per always, fragmentation. So some of these very early attacks only work on the most early versions of WPA3. So if devices haven't been updated, then some of these attacks might still work, some of them might not work. I mean, it's kind of the same thing with WPA2, except there are some fundamental attacks against it that were revealed years after it was released, where we'll always be able to attempt to recover a password via brute forcing. That's just like just always going to work with WPA2. WPA3, we haven't really found anything that's fundamentally super broken with it, except for the fact that it's very expensive. So there's a lot of denial of service attacks that I think would actually be pretty easy to do with a microcontroller that supports WPA3, where you basically just exhaust it by sending enough requests that it has to do this new and much more expensive encryption algorithm to be able to verify that a device is attempting to connect and is allowed to connect. Because that new algorithm is much more expensive for processors, it's pretty easy to actually exhaust the router and cause it to like freeze up or reboot or otherwise not have any more resources available to process legitimate requests. So that's kind of like the majority of the attacks against WPA3 right now. Like I wouldn't call them, it's not the same as like a deauthentication attack, but if the end result is that the router can't process anything anymore, then I mean, I guess it kind of is. All right, so here's a question that I am barely qualified to answer, so let's do our best. Should I go to college for cybersecurity or computer science for becoming an ethical hacker? I would say cybersecurity, and here's why. When I went to school for, I wanted to basically learn programming in the context of ethical hacking, and I was super clear about that. And I went to my community college, and I got into a computer science class, and the attitude of the computer science teacher was crazy. He would regularly confuse different languages while he was teaching them. If anybody pointed that out or asked questions, he would tell them that they like hadn't paid enough attention and kind of just like make them feel less confident in themselves and like undermine their confidence. I got into student government because I found computer science, at least at some of the places that I went to be so difficult to get into or to find like really good teachers that we started bringing in outside expert to explain concepts to the students because we thought that there was such a gap in the education. That's not going to be everywhere, of course, but there are a lot of perfectly good schools that have just messed up computer science courses. And my experience has been that they don't really encourage you to do things like networking, Linux, like some of the other things that are in my mind really, really critical to like ethical hacking. I didn't learn at all in my computer science classes. I didn't learn any command line utilities. I didn't learn about Linux. I didn't learn about networking at all, like how devices connected to each other, how to ping, how to like verify connectivity. All that stuff was ignored in favor of just like computer science fundamentals. And that's great, I guess, if you want to get into theoretical stuff. But if you want to do, I don't know, like if you want to spend your time working on projects that require a lot of technologies overlapping, as hackers tend to, then I would say like focusing on like cybersecurity or something like that, that brings you through a variety of different disciplines would probably prepare you better and give you a broader base of understanding for what's going on. Because failing one networking class was enough to teach me more about the way the internet works than all of my prior education at that point. So yeah. Okay, so I also wanted to give a shout out before I forget. Let me drag this over to the other window that I am sharing. To our often guest, Angelina. So she is at it again. And last year, she made the Meow Mixer badge, which is a very cute beginner soldering badge that was designed to make people feel comfortable about soldering while still getting something really cool and kind of delightful. So this year, I was talking with her about what we should do. And of course, she's an aerospace expert. So we were trying to find something that would be cool for like maybe Aerospace Village or like some other things that we do around planes. And especially if she's going to be doing more classes around it, we were like, oh, like, wouldn't it be cool to maybe have like the required like safety lights for an airplane with like a little 555 timer or something. So this is what Angelina's been working on. The design has since changed a little bit, but I just wanted to show off the early stages because it is so incredibly cute. So in subsequent designs, oops, sorry, your question is still pinned, even though I answered it. So in subsequent designs, there's also some additional like art on the engines and the cockpit and stuff. And I think she changed the cockpit back Oh, she changed this like further back, so the cockpit's just kind of stylized. But I just really love this design. And if you're going to be attending Aerospace Village, or yeah, if you're looking for more cool aerospace hacking stuff, make sure to follow Angelina. I will tweet this out and include her socials, because like I really I think that this is so cool. And I love every time she makes one of these designs that has like a very basic electronic component and then a badge built around it that makes something cool. So this one I really like, and I thought was just awesome. Let's see. Uh, the degrees are no longer any more valid than certifications. Oh, that's funny. Okay, well, I didn't know anything about a press conference related to this, but I have a complicated feeling about like certifications versus degrees. I think that like having been in the workforce now for a while and knowing what people are looking for, like people want as much hands-on experience as possible, and they want to know that you've been able to like master some of these concepts they're going to need you to really know, and they want to know that you've been at least close enough to the action that you know the appropriate response, or you know you have some common sense, basically, like in the industry. That's really hard to get out of fresh graduates or out of somebody who's only had theoretical experience. So like oftentimes whatever can give you the most practical hands-on experience is really going to be the better option. I don't know, for me, if self-studying for a certification would be the best way of doing it, but a lot of people work really well that way. So if you're like an independent studier and you can get through online stuff really easily and teach yourself, then I think that some of the certifications might be really good. If you need the structure and you need good teachers and other people going through it with you, like I do, then you know the actual like school might be valuable. But I like going back to school the second time, like I really had very little interest in like finishing the degree. For me, it was getting the core skills necessary to work on side projects that like showed off my skills to potential employers, so that when they were like, oh, well, have you done anything hands-on? I was like, oh my God, like, let me make you a list. You know, like I went to DEF CON and we did like a tag game that we like manufactured ourselves, like with a bunch of collaborators and artists and other people. Like that was crazy. I did this and that. And a lot of these like extracurricular activities that I'm using like my schooling for and then turning around and just doing something is basically like a senior project that someone actually cares about because you know it's done professionally and it has an impact on the community. Those are how I have gotten around the need to like necessarily like finish a cybersecurity degree, when you basically have all the things you need lined up and maybe even some job offers or the prospect of needing to get a job sooner rather than later. So yeah, that's my take on it. I think certifications can be great for people who are self-motivated to study, but the support in theory, the support of a good teacher and fellow students who are working with you to like build skills and like understand like how things work together. Like I found that those were very valuable to me, and I would tend to go the school route, especially if you're in a state like California where you can get school for free at any community college and not accrue any student debt. Because I know that the cost of this is a really big factor for most people. And I was lucky enough to be in a state where they provided schooling and I could go back and basically learn whatever I wanted, which I feel should probably be available to more people, but whatever. Yeah. So for me anyway, that had a huge impact on my calculus because I didn't need to make the decision about spending, you know, a ton of money on accruing student debt. A lot of people, that's going to be part of their calculus, and they'll have to decide whether or not it's worth it to go into a program versus maybe just studying really hard, like on their time off and getting a certification that shows that they already know this stuff, especially maybe if they had a job that already exposed them to some of this and they feel like they don't need to waste their time going through a bunch of prerequisite classes. That was a long answer, you guys. I'm sorry about that. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Highly recommend just figuring out which conferences Angelina is speaking at and just making friends there. Yeah. I would also recommend that because Angelina is going to be at a lot of conferences. Like it will be, I think that she's going to be speaking at Layer 1. So if you're going to be in Pasadena, I'm going to be speaking at Layer 1. She's going to be speaking at Layer 1. We're going to have a booth there. So that's coming up in I'm going out there to start setting up for Layer 1 in literally a week, everyone. So it feels crazy to be flying all over the place like this much. I think if you have noticed, I've had a different like background like every single stream like for a while now. So yeah, we're getting into that season where like things are popping off. There's going to be a lot of conferences happening. We're looking at even more conferences to go to. So yeah, it's very exciting. But anyway, if you're going to be at Layer 1, Angelina will be there. and you'll be able to ask your aerospace hacking questions. And we also have a little announcement for layer 1. Oops, sorry. The announcement being, all right, I talked about these LoRa add-ons before for the Nugget. This is our open source design, and I wanted to create something that takes this cool technology and actually makes it so you can attach it to something existing. So I've got a bunch of them in these bags. They're, in my opinion, extremely cute. And I can plug them into the back of a Nugget, and then I can send messages for over a mile. I did the video on it, but you know, I just wanted to polish it up a little bit. I felt like something was missing. I wanted to make sure that if we were going to release this, that it was not just functional, but also stable. So my primary design critique of the last one was you can't really plug anything into it. And the first thing I wanted to do was make a sensor or I don't know, like a temperature monitor or something like that, and then have it report back its status over LoRa. I was like, that would be cool. But once you plug this in, you can't really plug anything else into it. It's kind of like, that's it, it's done. So we made some modifications, and my friend Zach went ahead and made a new revision of this, which we are going to be dropping at layer 1. And let me pull up a video and I'll see. Okay, that's pretty cool, actually. So Zach is really into making like exploding animations and models, and I love them. So you are now going to be treated to a sneak peek of what we are going to be releasing at layer 1. So we have a very cursed CircuitPython class that, I'm not saying that CircuitPython is cursed. I'm saying there's a curse on this class. For some reason, every time we try to do it, like someone's computer dies. Last time it killed 2 of our people's computers. Not even necessarily related. Their computers just always happen to die or stop working or something around the time of this class. It's just some weird thing. So we are shifting over our CircuitPython class to instead covering this new LoRaPaw. And all right, here we go. Here's the reveal. So not everything's on here. There's some secret art and some other stuff that you'll have to see it to imagine and comprehend. But this design is really cool because it allows you to use 2 separate LoRa modules, both of which I like very much, so I didn't want to be exclusive about it, and drop it onto the back of a Nugget. So this works on our new special prototype Nugget and also all USB Nuggets. And anybody that has one or picks one up at the conference can also grab one of these backpacks. And yeah, I really like that this one also allows you to use both radios simultaneously. I don't even know what you would need that for, you guys, but I'm sure you can think of something. Maybe a simultaneous repeater, maybe a signal hunter, maybe, I don't know, it's up to you. So this design is cool because it's going to come default with this little postage stamp looking guy, which I have bought 100 of from a sketchy anonymous Chinese supplier. So our hope is that they work. But if they don't, then I still have about 25 of them left over to make these. And we're going to be giving away some of these as prizes at our booth at layer 1. And we're also going to be doing a little class teaching you how to use Python to actually use these to connect to other devices and either trigger things or send messages, receive messages. It should be a lot of fun. So if you're interested in long range stuff, if you want to check out this new design, we're going to have them at the conference. It'll be the debut of this design. And this is going to be the stable version of our LoRaPaw. The previous version was a lot smaller, but like I said, once you plug it in, it doesn't really do anything else. You can't, there's just like not room for anything else to be plugged in. So this design has a SPI bus or a SPI bus, depending on how you say that. It also has an I2C out, an I2C connector. So if you have any I2C sensors, passive infrared sensor for motion sensing, radar sensor for like presence detection, temperature sensor, whatever you want, color sensor, I don't care. Stick it here. Like just plug it into that port and it should just work. And then on the other side, I have a UART connection. So if you have a UART device, you can do that here. There's a lot of GPS units that are UART devices. So if you wanted to be broadcasting your GPS position or like pulling down a really exact time for synchronization, then you can plug a GPS into this little UART port on the side and you're good to go. So I love this design. I'm honestly very delighted by it. And I think it's got a lot of cool stuff. It's basically just like a big upgrade to the existing USB Nugget. So yeah, wanted to share this. And also our team member, Autumn, also really likes making exploding animations. So she contributed her own exploding animation. And I just wanted to share it with all of you. So shout out to Autumn for making this exploding one. I think in some ways it has even more pizzazz than the original one. I know that Autumn doesn't watch the stream, but hopefully she appreciates that. So yeah, lots of cool stuff is going to be happening at layer 1. It's also going to be the return of the Pushins. So if you saw what we did at the Scale conference, we're going to be bringing back the Pushins, and one of them will be for you to hack. So if you want to complete our little CTF, come over by our booth. Hopefully it is working, and we should have some really cool stuff for you to do at layer 1 if you are there. All right, so we've got about like 15 minutes left or so, and we've got, what, 110 people in the chat. So if you've got any questions about the RSA conference, I've been going there, you guys, for 7 years, and I've been going there for free, you know? So I started going to the RSA conference way back when I was just making Nullbyte and had no real business there, and I was basically trying to find another job. I was being paid so little by the company behind Nullbyte. I was pissed. So I went there for 2 years in a row before I met Darren Kitchen from Hack5, and we worked out a deal for me to go and make content for him. So that's actually how I met Darren. He doesn't go to RSAC, but you know, he was in the same city. And I wanted to go and meet other journalists, meet other people that made content around cybersecurity. And RSA was like perhaps the wrong conference, I think, maybe for that idea, but it didn't matter. They gave me a free press pass. I found places to stay in San Francisco. So I've been going for a very long time. It's a crazy conference. And you tend to see a lot of people there that, you know, I realize, because a lot of people, a lot of companies get sent, a lot of people get sent by their companies and end up spending a lot of time there. So I did meet a lot of other hackers there. There are some cool events. There's also a lot of marketing and salespeople, which is shocking for some hackers to be like surrounded by. Like, you're like, oh, it's going to be other hackers, and it's like totally not. So if you have any questions about what makes RSAC a special and interesting experience, then please also let me know in the chat. All right, so I see questions about CircuitPython or otherwise Python. Let's see. I want to answer that. Okay, cool. I love this question, and I have so much to say about it. So let me try to be succinct. How is CircuitPython compared to learning Arduino or C++ type variant? I literally have CircuitPython up on the screen. Boop, here it is, all huge. So I really like CircuitPython because for anybody who has basic logic and reasoning skills, a little bit of Python and the experience, and a microcontroller that supports this, can basically plug it into their computer, have it pop up as a USB drive, save a text file, just a Python file, to that device and have it run the code. There's no compilation. You're not forcing your computer to install a bunch of libraries and listening to it get hot and sound like it's going to take off every time you make a change to your code. I think just the pure amount of iteration value that I get from this device, or from CircuitPython and like a CircuitPython supported device, is crazy to me, because I can, you know, make a single change to this, hit save, and it will immediately reboot and start running the code. So is this as powerful as Arduino or C++, something like that? No, it's not. There's not as many libraries available for it. There's a lot that's been kind of pared down or isn't possible. For example, like if you want like a Python library like Scapy, it's not there. They don't have it. There's some libraries that do maybe something kind of sort of close to that, but you're kind of on your own for figuring out how to make it work the way that that would typically work. So if you're a Python person and you're really comfortable with Python, moving to a microcontroller is going to be a little bit confusing and maybe disappointing in maybe how little is supported and what kinds of decisions have been made for you. But there is a different fork of that project, MicroPython, which CircuitPython is actually built on. And MicroPython tends to let you go a bit further and have a bit more options. I find that the documentation for MicroPython is a little sketchy sometimes, but a lot of people that want to get into the nitty gritty of things work on that project, and you might find it to be a bit more technical, I guess, than CircuitPython, which is designed to be more beginner friendly but less powerful. Now, the advantage of C++ and Arduino is like you can find a library for anything. There's excellent documentation, and you know, it really does have the power behind it. If you want to go even further, then like tools like Espressif IDF really allow you to like unlock the magic behind these microcontrollers, but take a lot of time and energy to learn. So if you just want to start messing with microcontrollers and do something like make a grid of NeoPixels rainbow or send a message over LoRa, this is my LoRa test code. It's unnecessarily long. It's 106 lines. lines. And almost all those lines, as you can see, is documentation. It's almost all just comments. When I condense this, it's like maybe 50 lines. So being able to set this up, this will actually execute a Rickroll when it receives a certain packet. And that's pretty easy for me to write. I didn't have very much trouble doing this. I was able to adapt a couple existing examples. So if you can kind of follow along with what's going here with CircuitPython, based on like a Python background, I'm setting the radio frequency. I'm telling it what pins it's connected on. Like, this is not like rocket science compared to some of the things with C++ where you would really need a little bit of a background in computer science to be effective with it. But yeah, so that's I constantly go back and forth between using CircuitPython and Arduino because of those trade-offs. If I need to make more of like my previous development cycle, and I guess it's actually currently still my development cycle, is I will go and I will make a really rough and dirty prototype that shows off a proof of concept, something that's a really good idea. And then I will go and work with someone else to develop that into a C++ or Arduino version that is smaller, lighter, more efficient, and more powerful. So that's really like the process I like to follow. Like, if you have a rough idea and you can show and prove that it works in CircuitPython, then actually porting that logic over to C++ is not very difficult. So yeah, like I would say each language has its place. And for a beginner, CircuitPython is it. For an intermediate, maybe MicroPython, and then for more advanced users or people who want to get the most power out of their programs and also don't care about getting their computer hot and waiting for compilation, then there you go. That's going to be C++. Let's see. All right, so I probably can't do this one, and I'll explain why. So we had a lot of trouble around making the null byte channel originally when we would show anything that was too offensive. So I don't know if you guys know this, but we qualify for one of those like YouTube play buttons. Like the null byte channel absolutely got enough views and subscribers and all that. Like, and they will not send it to us. And I emailed them why. And they're just like, yeah, after reviewing your channel, like, we don't want to like come off like we're endorsing like what you're making. So that to me kind of like told me that we are barely tolerated by YouTube. Like, we are so barely tolerated that they will not give us like what they have agreed to give pretty much every other YouTuber for hitting certain milestones. So yeah, if we are that close to being erased off of YouTube, then it doesn't really make sense to me to provoke them any further by engaging with topics that are too malicious. So denial of service attacks, like, they're not very defensible. Like, I don't like, for example, this is a conversation I have all the time. We argue that we are able to teach ethical hacking because we are improving the security of things overall and teaching people about vulnerabilities to better defend themselves. Okay, that's the argument. So if we're teaching kids that, if we're teaching younger people that, then we are allowed to do that, even though a lot of other people get shut down for teaching hacking techniques that are just too easy to abuse. As soon as we start straying too close to things that are really easy to abuse, like distributed denial of service attacks or even just denial of service attacks, we get in a lot of trouble where people start being like, why would you teach like a high schooler or a middle schooler how to disrupt like a business network and potentially get them in legal trouble? At that point, it becomes a pretty convincing argument that maybe some of the things that we could cover and the things that we've considered covering might not actually be a good idea. Because if we do cover these tactics and we don't kind of, I'm not going to say self-censor, but at least like have a little bit of common sense about what things could be easily abused and what things are pretty just generally useful for cybersecurity professionals, we would not have the position that we have today, being able to talk to all of you. So that one I probably will not be able to do. And you'll find that there's some other topics that we've never covered on Nullbyte, Hack5, or Security Forward. And that is generally the reason behind it is we are aware that if we stray too much into certain territory, then, like, for example, phishing is an incredibly sensitive topic. Some of our most taken down videos on Nullbyte were covering open source phishing programs, and we tried to do them as like this is what a phishing attack looks like, but it didn't matter. Like, as soon as they got flagged, YouTube generally took them down and kept them down and gave us a strike on our account. So making cybersecurity content on YouTube is really delicate, you guys. It's something that we've had to get really good at, like determining like what's too spicy. And I think denial of service is too spicy. phishing is too spicy. And then a lot of OSINT topics actually are too spicy. You wouldn't realize this, but it's very hard to do an investigation on like a fake person or something like that. So as a result, most of the information pulled into an investigation that we show off is actually real, and people don't like it when we show off real people's information. Like YouTube doesn't like it. Nobody likes it. So yeah, we have to be really careful with that sort of thing. All right. So I want to also shout out one more place I went to. So I talked last week about Queerius Labs, which is a somewhat relatively new-ish hackerspace, at least in terms of how long hackerspaces are around anyway, in San Francisco that I got to visit, and everybody there was super friendly. They were watching Star Trek when I came in. They gave me the full history of the place, a tour, and an invitation to come hang out whenever. If you're in the San Francisco or Bay Area, you can always check out their status by going to their website and taking a look at their open door. Basically, it says whether or not like the space is occupied or not. So after that first night, I tried to go back again, but it never really lined up because I am a night owl, and it seems like the people there value their sleep, at least some of the time. So instead, I ended up at a second hackerspace called Noisebridge. Now, Noisebridge is a very famous hackerspace. If you've heard of Noisebridge or if you've been there, please let me know in the chat, because I would not be surprised, honestly, if a good amount of you have either heard of it or been there. Noisebridge is a very famous hackerspace because of just how big it is and how long it's been around for. When I went there, I have never seen a hackerspace that big before. It is easily 2 or 3 times the size of Null Space Labs in Los Angeles, which was my previous baseline for like a relatively large hackerspace. And it is big and full of people. So when you walk in, there's like a giant. Well, let me see. I don't know when this video is produced, but I'll dictate as to how accurate it is. I also wonder if I met any of these people. But anyway, you walk up. There's just like a gate with a payphone. You walk through. I think. Oh, look, it's Mitch. Okay, yeah. So Mitch is the one that introduced me to Noisebridge, and also recommended I come by and check it out. He was very involved in the space and did a lot of great things for it. And then since moving to Berlin, has had a great community of people there who have been maintaining it and inviting people in. But really what I wanted to show off is this crazy bottle wall. Here we go. So this is a screen that was playing like fractals when I walked in, but every single one of these pixels is actually an individual bottle with a light in it. And then the backside of it has like tin foil wrapped around it to bounce the light back forward and prevent light spillage. Yeah, there you go. You can kind of see how it looks. I have never seen anything like this. And every time I see like a really cool idea that's been executed in a way that like, I'm like, wow, I want to replicate that someday. I am amazed. And of course, a hackerspace would be the spot to have all of that cool kind of just art and like hacker culture. What is crazy about Noisebridge is the priority that they've given to various areas. So it like is very telling that they have an entire like fabric, sewing, and knitting area. Whereas I've seen other maker spaces kind of like make a little bit of room for this, but not actually set any room aside. They're like probably the busiest room in this hackerspace was for people who were like sewing, knitting, like making things out of fabric, which I had never really seen before. I thought that was great. They have a library, an electronics room, a music room for recording audio that is just chock full of instruments, and then also a massive workshop downstairs and a good amount of friendly people who are like honor bound to give you a quick tour of the space if you show up there. So visiting the space is really easy. You just show up, and typically people are there during the day. They also have hours that you can check out where they're hosting classes and such, but I just showed up. And yeah, like everybody is welcome. So if you are in the San Francisco area, if you are also attending like RSAC or any of these conferences, again, this was a massive place, and just be aware that everybody is welcome. So like a place like this, that's this large, that has this many people involved, is going to attract all sorts of people. I met some extremely weird individuals while I was there, and that's fine for me, but it might not be for everybody. So yeah, I would just say it's big space. There's lots of eccentric, cool, and interesting people there. It is certainly a cool mix, but for being an institution that I've been wanting to visit for a while, I was really excited to check this out, and I met a lot of really cool people there. So yeah, I went back actually twice, and I really enjoyed each time I went, and the fact that it was generally open and there was generally just hacker stuff going on most of the time. All right. Let's see. Well, all right. So here's one thing. How have you been? I've been wrestling with my own personal imposter syndrome about being a hacker. Yeah, a lot of as you go on to say, like a lot of people kind of feel like this is a title that's like bestowed onto you. Like if at a certain point you make enough contributions, like people kind of like consider you to be like a hacker or part of the hacker community. But really, like I think the way that I see it anyway, and this is just my personal view, is like people who are a part of the community by participating, either by attending and making these events successful by like actually like putting their heart into like attending them, trying them, like playing a CTF, like going to a conference and meeting new people, like putting themselves out there and maybe looking stupid, in order to learn something new. Those are people that are actively participating in the hacker community. And that could also be online. It doesn't mean that you have to be in person. I think that the thought that you need to have a certification or you need to be a teacher or you need to be like a student that's most of the way through your studies and have proved a certain level of competence is like not necessarily valid. It, to me anyway, it's much more of a like, I know that a hacker is a hacker, like regardless of whether or not they work in cybersecurity. Like I know, for example, one of my friends is dating someone who is an incredible maker, who is in their spare time just driven to create like really interesting like cosplay things and like costumes and decorations. And like this is like the mark of a hacker, somebody who is engaging with their personal community, like cosplayers or like other people that are working on these sorts of things, and like learning new things and maybe looking a little stupid to make something new. So I think that there's people outside of even cybersecurity and like ethical hacking in general who I consider to be hackers just because of the way they approach technology or the world or the way that they kind of engage with things and contribute back. But the primary thing I think is just like hackers contribute to their community by participating and by sharing when they can. That's really it. So I have participated by sharing some of the ugliest, dirtiest code. Like I remember when I was doing my first computer science class, they're like, "Oh, this is an API. This is what you can do with it." And I went through the city of Los Angeles's like data business APIs and wrote a couple search tools, like command line search tools, and then just released it to GitHub. And they continue to be some of my most starred code. It was probably like maybe the ninth, 10th program I'd ever written, and people liked it, like it was from like a literal idiot, like someone who like had not had any experience to make like unique, novel, or special code. I just made something that was interesting to me, and in the end enough people agreed that it was a contribution that you know professional software developers look at the number of stars that I have on my GitHub and like, oh wow, you're really serious. I'm like, no. No, I just contribute a lot, so just don't try not to be shy, to look stupid. Like I've had people ask me, oh, like, do you still feel imposter syndrome? Like, how did that go away for you? And it's like, I've had so many careers where I've been asked to do stupid or impossible things that at a certain point, assuming that you can't do something is not a useful, is just not useful to carry around with you anymore. At least for me anyway. So I personally don't struggle with that as much anymore, just because of all the hats I've been asked to wear in my life. Like the hacker hat feels the most natural to me. It feels like what's left over when I take off all the other hats, I guess is the way I would describe it. So having seen what people who are established in the community respected, seeing the way that they act, seeing the way that they behave, and then looking at my own actions and behavior, I'm like, yes, I'm contributing. Yes, I'm teaching. Yes, I'm constantly learning from people. And yes, I often look stupid. If you can tick off half of those boxes, like I would say you meet my definition for being a hacker, just for being able to want to better yourself in this community and being humble enough to not like gatekeep other people or make the space worse, you know? So, all right, kind of a long response, but I think we are just about done. What are the best ways to hide your tracks while hacking or being anonymous? That's always going to be like a back and forth. So I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do, right? Like, I would say obviously using a VPN is going to be like a very basic step you're going to want to do. Maybe tunneling through Tor. Again, that's going to cause all sorts of flags, as like most VPN endpoints and Tor are flagged as particularly risky by most services, and you'll find that you can't log into anything without doing an endless stream of captchas. So that one would require a little bit more diving into, and also, be legal, be good, behave yourselves. Um, And also, yes, James, you are a big part of the community, and we love you. Every time I come on the stream, if James is not here, I feel a little bit lost. So thank you, James, for being here. It does really mean a lot to all of us, and you are a big part of the stream. I think that's just about all the time we have for today. Is there anything I'm forgetting about? I wonder. I showed you the exploding diagram. You got to see the cool, airplane. Okay, all right. I think that's just about it. So again, we have 1 week until I leave for California to go to the Layer 1 conference. The actual conference is on the 25th to the 26th. So if you are going to be in the Pasadena area, we would love to see you there. And of course, we'll be doing a stream as well as a bunch of other fun stuff there. So stay tuned for more exciting announcements there. And as always, if you want to support the stream, if you enjoy me going live twice a week, every week, and you want to have more guests on the stream, please go to veronis.com/Kody. That's Kody. It lets them know that you appreciate the stream, you want us to keep going, and it doesn't cost you anything. So we definitely appreciate all of you. And we've got some exciting collaborations that are in the works that I can't quite talk about yet coming up for DEF CON. So if you're going to be at DEF CON, then yes, some very exciting things happening there. And we will tell you what we can when we can. So, all right, everyone, thank you for hanging out on the stream today. There was 135 of you, which I still find amazing, because when we started doing the stream, it would be like me, James, and like 10 people. And I know all those 10 people. So hopefully most of you are still in here, although Taekwon, I know you. So yes. But anyway, great to see all of you today. We will see everyone again on our Friday stream where we go over the news, and hopefully we have Killian on. Although I'm also looking for some more guests. I met some really great people at RSAC, so maybe we could get some people from from the IoT Village. And oh my gosh, what's the other one I talked to? Like Physical Entry Village? Oh, no, it's okay. I need to go back and look at the card. But yes, we'll possibly have some people from the villages at DEF CON come on to talk a little bit about what they do, because I think having learned about those villages late, I wish I knew more about them early on, and yeah, all the things that they do at DEF CON, because they're really cool. So, all right, everyone, we will talk to you on Friday. Thanks for hanging out, and yeah, be good. Especially to the person who asked about the anonymous proxying, behave yourselves. All right, goodbye, everyone.